So another part of your peripheral system is your autonomic nervous system. So we looked at spinal nerves, we looked at cranial nerves, and now we're looking at the autonomic nervous system. And what's interesting about the autonomic nervous system is this is also known as your rest or digest and fight or flight system. So let's use an example. Let's say this poor guy has been chased by a bear. Okay, so a bear is chasing him. Or imagine yourself, you're being chased by a bear. What would happen to you? Well, what would happen to you is your sympathetic nervous system would kick in and your eyes would get dilated. Dilated means get big, so your eyes would get wide. Your saliva, your mouth would get dry, so it inhibits saliva production. So your mouth would get dry. What would happen to your heart? Well, if you're seeing a bear, your heart's gonna be pumping faster, really fast, right? Because you're running probably away from the bear. So you're running from the bear, and your heart's beating fast. What's going to happen to your stomach? Well, if you're not going to digest. All your energy is being reserved for your running, so your stomach is not going to digest any food. And if you ever had the urge to go pee, well, that's gone now. Okay, so it inhibits urination. So basically, when you're fighting the bear or flying or running from the bear, all of these symptoms are happening to you. Rest or digest is the opposite, is the parasympathetic system. So if you're resting and you're relaxing on a beach, for example, what's happening to you? Well, one thing is your eyes is not as wide open, so your eyes are constricted or slightly closed. You think about when you're sleeping. Sometimes when you're sleeping, you wake up with a drool on the side of your mouth. Well, that's because when you're resting, you get more saliva, more salivary flow in your mouth. Your heart is not pumping that fast, so your heart is relaxed, it's slowed, and you are digesting at this time. So when you're resting, you do digest. That's why it says rest and digest, rest or digest, and you may feel the urge to urinate at that point. Okay, so these are the symptoms that happen when you are resting or digesting, and these are the ones that happen when you are in your sympathetic nervous system, when you are fighting or flying. Okay, so again, we have the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. So sympathetic is when you're scared, parasympathetic is when you're relaxed. And what's interesting about the parasympathetic nervous system, and again, remember the parasympathetic nervous system is when you are resting or digesting. The nerves that come out or extend off the brain and spinal cord are the ones at the top over here and at the bottom over here. And if you look at the sympathetic nervous system, and this is when you are scared, you can see that a lot of the spinal nerves are being affected. So this is the one in the middle, whereas for parasympathetic, it's the one at the top and the one on the bottom that are being affected. Another thing to note is the autonomic nervous system, which is over here. This is a different way of showing the autonomic nervous system. This is CNS, which is your brain. This is PNS, which is the peripheral nervous system. And so let's just say the brain processed that you're in pain. So it's going to send a signal through two neurons. The first neuron is the preganglionic neuron. So pre means it's the first one. So it sends a message over here. And then the message gets sent to the next neuron, and the next neuron sends a message to, like, let's say, to your finger, and it tells your finger to move from the thing that's hurting you. So preganglionic neuron is where the message is being sent first, and then it gets sent to the postganglionic neuron. So it's the second neuron, second neuron that gets sent that same message that you're in pain, and then the message gets sent to the muscle. And it could be to your arm muscle and tells your arm to move away. So preganglionic neuron is the first one. Postganglionic neuron is the second one. Preganglionic neuron is the one that comes from the central nervous system. So you can see it starts over here at the central nervous system. Postganglionic neuron, this is only in the PNS, which is the peripheral nervous system. So we were looking at the trigeminal nerve branch, and this is the number 5. This is the one that took up most of your face, and this is because we have 3 nerve branches. We have the autonomic nerve, the maxillary nerve, and the mandibular nerve, as we see over here. So lots of nerves over here, and what we really need to know is the ophthalmic nerve is the one near the eye, right? Oph comes from eye, so it's the nerve that innervates the eye. Maxillary nerve, this is one that we looked on last chapter or a few chapters ago, and this is the nerve that has many different stems, almost 15 different stems. And as we see over here, you can see here is your maxillary nerve, and you see how there's so many different branches that can innervate many parts of your mouth. And remember, we talked about local anesthesia, and if I were to numb, let's say, the front teeth, then I would inject somewhere here so that the numbness would kick into the nerves here, and that way I would have no feelings or no sensation in this area here. So review back to that chapter about the maxillary division or the maxillary nerve and what it innervates, and review all those nerves that we talked about at that time. We also looked at the mandibular nerve too in the previous chapters, where the mandibular nerve is a nerve that goes to the bottom and it innervates the inferior alveolar nerve. So inferior means below, right? So that's why it's mandibular nerve, because mandibular is below, inferior means below. So it's a nerve that innervates all these teeth at the bottom. Okay, so you can see there's lots of different nerves that stems from the mandibular nerve. Let's look at the facial nerve. So we're almost done, guys. So facial nerve, there's a hand trick that if you just put your finger or your hand right over here, it actually points, or it will identify the different branches of your facial nerve. So it's actually pretty self-explanatory, because if you remember when we were looking at the skull and the different bones in the skull, we knew that the temporal bone was somewhere over here where your temple is. So that's why this is your temporal branch that stems from your facial nerve. Number 2 is your zygomatic. So zygomatic is your cheek area. So this is your cheek. So zygomatic branch. Number 3 is your buccal. Buccal means cheek as well. So buccal is the cheek over here. Zygomatic, this is where your zygomatic bone is. So that's why it's referring to zygomatic bone in this area. Buccal means cheek. So this is your cheek. Sorry, guys. Number 4 is your mandibular branch. And you can see that this branch goes to the mandible, the lower jaw, right? And cervical, so cervical kind of goes towards the bottom, towards your throat. And so this is your cervical branch. So 5 branches that stems from your facial nerve. Remember, your facial nerve is really cool because this is a nerve that gives you all your muscles of facial expression. So when you're happy, when you're sad, those muscles that cause your smile to go up or cause your mouth to go up and cause your mouth to go down, they all stem from this facial nerve. Glossopharyngeal nerve. So we're looking at glosso. Glosso means tongue. So this is a nerve that is near the tongue, and pharyngeal comes from pharynx, sorry. And pharynx is close to where your throat is. So that's where this nerve is, near your tongue, near your pharynx or your throat. Vagus nerve. This is a big nerve that goes all the way down to your body, right? It extends to your body. And you can see that over here. And it goes to all the different organs. Okay, that's it. So we've touched on the important cranial nerves. I do want you to review what the nervous system is, know the major 2 categories of your nervous system. I want you guys to know what sensory nerve is and motor nerve is, so review that. I also need you guys to know, there was a section on this one. So what is the gray matter, which is the one that's shaped in a butterfly? This outside is your white matter. Know that dorsal root and sensory root are the same. And then they kind of go together rather. And the ventral root and motor root go together. And I would know all the cranial nerves and what they innervate or what they do. All right, thank you guys.